One former Met is headed north of the border. Another former Met may be coming back, and the Mets continue their pursuit for another top line starting pitcher. Welcome to Metropolitans. We are YouTube's smallest New York Mets and Miami Dolphins channel. We're going to cover all of the news of the day in baseball here. Lots of signings, lots of little rumblings here. The big news in the overall baseball front, Blue Jays and right-hander Max Scherzer are reportedly in agreement on a one-year deal worth $15.5 million guaranteed without any deferrals. This is a Boris client, as well as Pete Alonso has been. So there will be a corresponding move there. Obviously, this will fill out, if he can stay healthy, it will fill out the Blue Jays rotation. The Blue Jays rotation is relatively old. They're not a bunch of young pups on that roster when it comes to the pitchers. I think the average age of the pitchers of their main four is something like in the mid-30s. So the breakdown is Kevin Gausman is 34, Chris Bassett is 36, and Jose Barrios will be 31 in May. I guess Bassett's turning 36 next month. So, and then of course you've got Scherzer as well, who is, so that's the first thing. A couple other smaller moves not related to the Mets directly. Mariners are going to re-sign Jorge Polanco, one-year deal, $7.75 million guaranteed. And the Padres are going to re-sign Elias Diaz, a one-year deal with a mutual option for 2026. Guaranteed $3.5 million, $1.5 million base salary, and $2 million buyout on the $7 million option for the following year. So Max Scherzer to the Blue Jays. In addition, those other couple of deals. And then we get to the Mets news. So the Mets did have to make a corresponding move. Officially, they got the Ryan Stanek signing completed, but that filled up their 40-man roster. So they had to designate Dylan Covey for assignment. Covey never pitched for the Mets. He was with the Phillies last year, but they got rid of him at the end of the season. And he's a starter who converted to bullpen. He was one of the early pickups for the Mets in this offseason, but doesn't look like he's going to be sticking around for much. All right, and then we get to just some of the other Mets notes. It was reported today that the Mets actually were pursuing Kenley Jansen for a while. However, Kenley is in pursuit of moving up in the all-time saves leader list and is looking for a place where he can be a closer. But the Mets did reach out there, and then they made the pivot to Stanek then once they realized that that wasn't going to work. But they would have loved to have had him as a setup man and also as someone who could take over on days when Edwin Diaz wasn't available. But that was not going to be because Jansen wanted to have a full-time spot. Alonso has been notifying other agents not to contact him. Pete is going to stick with Boris. So like it or not, that's going to be the situation that is going to be going there. There's definitely possibilities too of Jose Iglesias still coming back because he is also not signed yet, and he is still a free agent. And it is likely that Vientos, Acuna, Mauricio, and Beatty, probably at least one, if not two of them, will start in the minors. My guess is it would be Beatty and Mauricio. If it's going to be two, if it's going to be one, probably Mauricio, because they want to make sure they're getting full playing time and getting the reps that they need to keep growing, because you don't want to have these young guys just coming up to sit on the bench. It's better for both their growth as well as potential trade value to have these guys regularly playing, because then they can show off, develop their skills in doing that if they're sitting on the bench. All right, and then we get to the rumor du jour. It seems like every day there's a new name that is tied to the Mets, and again, lots of people out there reporting Michael King. So yesterday we were talking about Dylan Cease. Today we're talking about Michael King, another starter for the San Diego Padres. And so I wanted to show just a little bit of his Baseball Savant page in case you're not, so you can see. He's a righty, 6'3", 210 pounds, 29 years old. So he's just like a year older than Cease, so not extremely old, but made kind of the transition from reliever to starter last year, pitched really well in that. Now, for a guy who is a major league starter, he actually doesn't have that many total innings under his belt at the age 29. So that's kind of interesting. You can kind of see all of his percentile ranks um, here, and you can also kind of see his movement, his induced break, all this. I'm not like a super geeky stats out person, but I know some of you guys are. And but one of the best things that you'll notice here is the hard hit percentage. So he induces lots of softly hit balls, and his average exit velocity, right? That for his pitching, he's among the best. So there's lots of weak contact, and he's able to do that. So you can see he's not necessarily a hard thrower. He does his fastball velo is pretty low. There's a whole bunch of things here that are interesting. Of course, one of the big questions that I have always with a pitcher like this is, is it something that you can replicate? Sure, you had a great year, and I think he's a great sell high candidate for the Padres. So I certainly don't fault the Padres for trying to maximize value. The other side of this is, so there's kind of a pro and a con depending on how you want to see these things. Cease is the more proven, but he also has many more innings on his arm. He's also going to be more costly. So if you're interested in the Dylan Cease versus the Michael King, you're gonna if you're going to be able to pull off a trade, being able to pull off a trade for Michael King will come significantly cheaper than Dylan Cease because of just his whole pedigree, the total package, the total resume that he has, in addition to the name recognition as well. The negative is you're kind of buying on a guy with just 1 year of starting experience. And so there's trade-offs, of course, naturally with everything that goes on, but that is kind of one of the big things that we have here. Lots of talk, and I tried to do because I was going to do a comparison. I'll show you it, and I'm still learning how to use some of these websites a little bit because I wanted to just do a comparison of last year, and I can't figure out how to do that. But I will still show you the comparison of Dylan Cease versus Mike in terms of an overall. But you got to remember, most of his career, King has been a reliever. He also is kind of a late bloomer, getting a late start. So I was hoping to find a way to actually compare just their last year stats. But I suppose there's other places to go look at it. But just to kind of see them side by side, just to get a little bit of a picture of what you're looking for here, what you're looking at in general. So it's hard to really just compare stats too much. But I wanted to show that just at least so you would have that comparison available to you. You can do some more stats digging, but essentially Michael King, you're getting him if you're looking for someone who pitches to contact but gets weak contact. So he's not going to overpower you. He's going to more finesse you and use the movement on his pitches to induce swings that'll be weak swings. And so if that's the type of pitcher that you like, then Michael King is going to be the type of pitcher that you would want on your staff. It will be certainly a hard sell to sell him to Mets fans as a true number one starter, um, being that he's not even currently the number one on his own staff. So to bring him in, however, he would probably instantly be the Mets number one starter, at least to start the season at this point in time. So again, let me know if you are liking these potential options. Again, we've been talking so much about different first base options. We've been talking about Torkelson and Mountcastle. Now we're talking about pitching options. And I've been saying for a couple of weeks, it has not ever appeared that the Mets were out of hunting for starting pitching. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to get a deal done with a starting pitcher, but they are actively looking and searching for an option that will work for them, that will help bring depth to the lineup. So now the other side of this is it is going to cost you, and it's probably going to cost you the name of a prospect that maybe you like. So I'd be interested to know who are the prospects that you would put in the absolutely no deal. There's no way I would want to give them up for a rental starting pitcher or for anything like that. Acuna is definitely one for me that I want to hold on to, and I think Vientos. I mean, yes, he's technically maybe still a young guy, but I wouldn't put him in the prospect category that I would trade as much as I like Beatty, I would be willing to trade Beatty for sure. And I also want to hold on to Sproat as well. Mauricio is someone, again, I'd like to hang on to, but you don't really know what you're getting there. I certainly don't want to see them giving up multiple big names for a starting pitcher. As much as I do want to win right away, I also want to have a continuous farm system that is getting built year after year and is getting stronger year after year. And that's why I just tend to lean towards preferring, until we get our farm system fully built out, I prefer more free agent signings and then save the trade chips that you have and keep those available for at the trade deadline. However, with certain prospects, you sometimes do need to sell at a certain time, just so you can maximize the value that you can get for them. But I'd love to know, who are the prospects that you would say there's no way I would want to deal, or for a Michael King at least, there's no way I'd want to save him for a much bigger deal. It'd be kind of interesting to see what you guys are thinking. So whether you're watching live or on replay, hit that like and subscribe, and then also please comment, like, what prospects do you want? Dylan Cease versus Michael King. Are you willing to pay more for a Dylan Cease, someone with a slightly more proven track record, but also has a lot more innings on the arm overall? Are you okay getting the discount version, going for the Michael King? And where would you slot him in? Would you slot him in as the number one? Definitely want to hear what you guys are thinking on all of these things. And so there's basically no more information coming out on Pete Alonso. I'm going to just cover that a little bit more, other than he's just not planning on switching agents. But it's just feeling more and more like I don't know where else he's going to go other than the Mets. And so I will just continue to repeat and bang the drum that I've been banging here for a couple of days now, which is just work out a 1-year deal. Just sign the 1-year deal. Let Pete audition for his big deal next year. Let the Mets get to see what a lineup looks like with Soto and Pete. And then the Mets have options next year, because you can either go after Pete or you can go after Vladdy, depending on whoever you want to go after going forward. It's like we need this stopgap. And I feel like any of the options that I'm seeing out here, it would be better to just bring in Pete on a 1-year deal. And if Pete would be willing to do it, just do a higher AAV, overpay for Pete for 1 year, and then see what he can put together. So that's what I would still love to see. I think that would be that makes the most sense at this point in time. We need to get this roster nailed down. I know obviously the front office is working on this as much as they possibly can and as quick as they possibly can. So there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of moving pieces, but it does not appear at all the Mets are done hunting for another starting pitcher. And again, not just a starting pitcher, but a front line top tier. I wouldn't even be completely surprised if they tried to sneak in like a second vet as well, who they wouldn't have to rely on, whether that ends up being a Flaherty or a Kershaw or something like that, or Pavetta. I don't know. But what do you think? What do you think on Michael King? What do you think on Dylan Cease? Are these things that you want to do? Where are you at on Pete Alonso? That's basically what we have here for the night. There's always new news coming out. That's just going to be a thing. And but we'll try to stay on top of it for you, give you a nice little wrap up at the end of each day. For those of you who aren't able to stay on top of this throughout the day, we appreciate you guys being here, and we will talk to you all soon.